In the last video, we introduced the king of games Yami Yugi into the Cardfight Vanguard universe. However, it would be a crime not to introduce his infamous rival Seto Kaiba. In today's video, we are going to ponder the question, what if Seto Kaiba was in Cardfight's Vanguard? Good afternoon, card fighters, and welcome back to the Prime Vanguard channel. Now, before I can get into today's topic, we have to get through my quick disclaimer. If you guys enjoy seeing discussion content such as this, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to hit that notification bell so you guys are always up to date on my most recent videos. Hitting that thumbs up really does help the channel and the brand grow, so I may continue to improve upon my content and bring you videos such as these. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and head right on into this. Throughout the Yu-Gi-Oh series, every protagonist has made it their goal to become the best duelist of their time. Whether it's to protect loved ones, become a professional duelist, or create a dueling spectacle, our heroes seek to become the best for a reason. However, anyone who wants to be a champion should know that there will always be someone who will challenge their resolve. While we've seen some great rivalries, none even come close to the first between Seto Kaiba and Yugi Moto.
You've been saying that for years, Kaiba. To duel. Let's begin.
When not serving as a friend or foe to Yugi, he's making big moves behind the scene. He created the new rules for the Duel Monsters card game, gave birth to the Duel Disc, and brought us the legendary Battle City arc. With all these feats in the series, his transition into the Cardfight Vanguard anime will be interesting. Being a wealthy CEO of your own company and having access to the most powerful cards in the game, Seto Kaiba's clan in the Vanguard universe will be a challenge to find. However, like in the last video, running on no sleep, determination online forums, we'll find out which deck would be best for Seto Kaiba as he transitions into Cardfight's Vanguard.
Then let's get to work.
Affirmative.
Like many of the characters in the Yu-Gi-Oh series, Kaiba's deck has evolved since his introduction in Season 1. He played the most powerful monsters at that time while also having a balanced mixture of spells and traps. Without a theme for his deck, his most iconic monsters would just be his favorite ones. Sagi the Dark Clown, Battle Ox, and his Blue Eyes White Dragon are just a few examples of his most popular cards. It wasn't until later in the series that Kaiba begins to take advantage of the spell card polymerization that we see his new fusion monsters added to his deck. The Rabbit Horseman, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon are just a few examples of this. In the Battle City arc, his deck takes a complete 360, introducing the X, Y, and Z cards, Obelisk the Tormentor, and Vorse Raider added to his arsenal. To make a long story short, Seto Kaiba's deck has always been a big melting pot of cards. You never see the same card twice, and when you do, it's usually one of his staple cards that he's already been playing. It wasn't until the final seasons of Yu-Gi-Oh! That Kaiba started adding a bunch of dragons to his deck, example being such as Spirit Ryu, Lord of Dragons, and other dragon cards that you see throughout the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, that his deck truly became part of the Dragon Empire. As we've seen in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, his deck has changed a lot since the beginning, now focusing more on bringing out the most powerful dragons that he can, while also using spells and traps to overwhelm his opponent. Now that we've broken down his deck and playstyle, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the plans that I decided would be best for Seto Kaiba to play in Cardfight Vanguard.
Mr. Kaiba has arrived.
In the beginning, while looking at clans for Kaiba, I thought I was going to find what I was looking for in Kagero or Narukami, as these clans hold some of the most powerful dragons in the Vanguard franchise. Dragonic Overlord or Dragonic Kaiser Vermilion had initially been my first options. Having access to dragons that control the battlefield, their playstyles would have been synonymous with Kaiba's. However, what if I told you that there was another clan that had what I was looking for, but wasn't entirely dragon oriented? These clans were Royal Paladin and Genesis. Now hold on, I understand what some of you may be thinking, but give me the opportunity to explain. While looking at the other dragon clans, I couldn't find one that looked similar to the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Regardless of the clan, it would not be a Seto Kaiba deck without his infamous Blue Eyes White Dragon as the centerpiece of his strategy. Both of these dragons I'm about to show next have the physical attributes of the Blue Eyes White Dragon and are very powerful decks as well, potentially being great candidates for Kaiba. that being the Sanctuary Guard Dragon from the Royal Paladin clan and Quaking Heavenly Dragon Astraios Dragon from the Genesis clan. With only 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons to choose from, I'm going to take a look back at my previous video to help determine which one would be best for this video. Previously, we decided that Luard would be best for Yami Yugi and his theme and playstyle, since his deck is about getting more cards on the board and powering up his rear guards. A deck that retires a lot of cards or has a Vanguard-centric strategy would be best to challenge him. Sanctuary Guard Dragon is a Vanguard-centric deck that utilizes grade 1s as a resource so that you may power up your front row for more powerful attacks. Kaiba isn't afraid to have a diverse deck, so not having a dragon-oriented strategy would be okay as long as your deck has powerful cards that can reinforce our Vanguard. Sanctuary Guard also has support cards directly for him that would be synonymous with the Eyes of Blue cards in the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. Quaking Heavenly Dragon Astraios Dragon is a part of the Astral Poet archetype that can access the God card Valkyrion. Genesis has access to different strategies and resource cards that would benefit this strategy as well. Access to a God card would also be great for Kaiba's deck because it used to revolve around Obelisk. To add on to this point, Genesis recently got better defensive cards, adding to the clan's unique playstyle as well. Having access to 2 of Kaiba's best cards would help him stand out as a character even more. With the deck's unique playstyle and having access to cards that most decks can't even utilize, this would play into his character even more since he can use Valkyrion's overwhelming power to humiliate his opponent. Now, both of these decks would be amazing for Kaiba, but as I said earlier, Kaiba loves his dragons. And there was one dragon that I wasn't trying to really utilize too much, but I know it'd be a crime if I didn't put it in here as well. So without further ado, I'm going to show you guys the last dragon I have for this video. Dragonic Overlord has a variety of forms to choose from and has already been called the Blue Eyes of the Cardfight Vanguard franchise. Being synonymous with his user Toshiki Kai, I tried not to use him, but y'all asked, so I shall deliver. Dragonic Overlord has multiple forms in the V series, so deciding which one would be his Vanguard was challenging. However, I feel confident in choosing either Dragonic Overlord the Great or Dragonic Overlord the Cross as his representatives. Each of these decks would be great as they're Vanguard-centric decks that can retire multiple rear guards per turn, making either one a perfect counter to Yami's Luard deck. Now that I've discussed the multiple clans and decks that would fit his theme and playstyle, let's go ahead and take a look at some deck profiles for Seto Kaiba. What is up, you guys, and welcome to Camera 2. Here I'm going to showcase the Sanctuary Guard Dragon deck I built for Kaiba. Now, when building Sanctuary Guard Dragon for Kaiba, I already knew that he's not afraid to play a diverse strategy, so having all these lighter themed cards that are warrior, spellcasters, fiend, dragons, I don't think that he had an issue with any of that as long as the deck was focused around his Blue Eyes White Dragon clone, in this case it being Sanctuary Guard Dragon. Sanctuary Guard Dragon is a Vanguard-centric deck and is a very powerful card as well. Being able to get additional critical on just your opponent being a grade 3 would be a great counter for Yami, as his deck doesn't really pop off or explode until he reaches his Luard and he can start transforming his Luard into its evolved form. Not only that, Sanctuary Guard Dragon as a deck has already proven in the real world that it can stand on its own 2 feet with amazing support. With the addition of all these other cards, I really wanted to focus more on a Vanguard-centric strategy, so therefore you're not going to be seeing too many of the cards that you would expect for the real-world Sanctuary Guard Dragon deck to play. Like I state in all of these videos, guys, these are just mock decks that the characters will play in the series. I don't intend to make these decks like meta-defining or anything. I'm not trying to create a deck that I would take to a tournament. I'm just creating a deck that would best fit the character. I had to put as many dragons as I possibly could in the deck so that this way it could be there'd be as much dragon support as possible. Abyssal Header Dragon is actually a really powerful grade 3 that I think Kaiba would enjoy, seeing as it gets a crit from your Vanguard hitting potentially. The Healed Guardian was a dragon, so that automatically had to go in there. Everything else was mediocre. I don't think Kaiba would play it if it was going to go against his strategy. You also have cards such as Old Man Baron, who gives critical to Sanctuary Guard, enforcing that playstyle. We have all the Sanctuary Guard support cards in the deck that would fit into the Eyes of Blue theme for just supporting the Sanctuary Guard Dragon by itself. Blaster Blade plus the grade 1. Blaster Blade can pop some cards, so I definitely see Kaiba enjoy doing that. All of these other cards would also fit his playstyle as well. Everything here gets power or does something devastating to your opponent. They also help improve the deck's consistency, and I just think that the trigger lineup as well for it is pretty generic. I try to keep it generic when it comes to these type of deck profiles, simply because I think the players want to utilize every single trigger advantage they can get for the game. Moving on to the second deck profile for this video, we have Genesis Dragon, Astraios Dragon. Now this deck is all over the place, but I already explained that, so we'll just hop right into this. Now, Astraios Dragon is another Blue Eyes White Dragon clone. It has a very powerful Vanguard effect. This deck takes Vanguard centric to the next level, as you want to stack as many Force 1s so that you can access your God card, Valkyrion. And I do think that this deck would work out pretty well. It has the same thing with Royal Paladin. You don't have a lot of dragons to pull from, but the cards that you do have to pull from, they gain power, they're aggressive, and they all fit into a Vanguard centric playstyle. I think that when it comes to consistency, this deck would probably perform the best, simply for the fact that you have all the pieces you already need in the deck to access the cards that you need, and Astraios himself doesn't require any of the other Astral Poet support to make it work. You just need to be able to have Valkyrion in your hand, which you can easily do with your searching cards, and you need to be able to make sure that you can get your multiple force markers, which the entire deck is built around. I threw Brawl Antler Dragon in there because I didn't really know what dragons Genesis had, and when I found out they really only had the 3 you see in the picture, I was like, well, it's a dragon card and it wouldn't throw the deck off too badly, so might as well throw it in there. And I see Kaiba playing it. It's a powerhouse card, you know? Being able to get multiple trigger effects and powers from the multiple drive checks that Valkyrion gives you and stacking all of it onto 2 cards is something I see Kaiba doing. It's a very overwhelming and powerful strategy, and even though you don't have any retiring or board control aspect of this all focuses completely on yourself. And knowing how egotistical Kaiba is, I can definitely see him playing something like that. I think Genesis is cool, but there's still one more contender I have to showcase. Alright you guys, and here we have it. Here it is, the Dragonic Overlord deck y'all been asking for Seto Kaiba. Now in this deck, I decided to focus on the Great because I feel like the Great doesn't get enough love or attention. I actually think that, well, I've always thought that this card was really good, and I think for Kaiba this would be pretty fitting as well. This deck has a good balance of being able to retire cards and also has the Vanguard centric theme going for it. The cross, I couldn't really fit enough retire cards in there because I had to make sure that my strategy was consistent enough so that this way you'd have more of a Vanguard focused build that could overwhelm your opponent. I do think that the Great, however, does the same thing because you can build up to getting up to your final grade 3, which again plays into Kaiba's whole strategy of the perfect victory, and you'd be able to set up for multiple critical attacks and a lot of pressure on the Vanguard turn. Being able to watch your opponent set up what they think is a good board and break it down, and then also be able to swing at them multiple times with high powerful and critical attacks, I think that would be really cool for Kaiba to do. Now, there are some pretty interesting choices in here for the deck that I think would actually be pretty fitting for Kaiba. And the biggest one here is, first of all, the grade 1 Voluntuber Dragon and the grade 2 the Knight card. Now, the reason why I'm playing the Voluntuber Dragon is because Kaiba's goal is to humiliate his opponent and to destroy everything that they set up. And Voluntuber's retire ability to retire itself and then retire all cards with the same grade against Yami's deck that wants to have a full board of grade 1 to take advantage of would be perfect. He can just use Voluntuber and 5-card pop his board with just 1 card. The grade 2 is an Overlord support card that I think would actually fit Kaiba pretty well. This card retires a card, it gets power, and it helps you search your deck for the Overlord piece that you need, whether it be the original or the Great. So therefore, he'd be able to look for any Overlord card he needs at any time. The other cards are just support cards for the strategy. You have this one, the salamander looking thing, you give power to your Overlord, whether it be the Great or the regular. You got Airmo for just regular countercharge support because Kaiba in the Yu-Gi-Oh universe is not a dumb guy, so he understands the importance of resource management. And then you have Heat Shot Dragon to enforce the strategy even more. Neo Flame because it's a must and it gives you more attacks for the turn as well. And then Toward Cannon Dragon because this card will give you the ability to give you a retire every single turn, which is something that I see Kaiba doing. And same thing with the trigger lineup. With the trigger lineup, was trying to go for the scariest looking cards I could find. Dragons, Wyverns, the Demons. All of those would fit Kaiba very well. I chose the Wyvern Kid because I feel like it'd be, I don't know, it'd be like his Mokuba card, you know? The card that Mokuba gave him to make him, he always keeps in his deck. And that just feels right for Kaiba. This is a dragon deck I see him playing. Now, obviously, you can throw any Overlord in there you want. I already stated between the Cross and the Great. I just felt like the Great deserved a little bit more shine because it's a really cool card, and I think it would fit Kaiba the most. Kaiba deserves a very powerful Vanguard-centric strategy, and I think that all three of the decks that I represented today would be great for those. Now, which ones you guys choose is up to you, but for me, I think that fitting his theme, his Blue Eyes White Dragon card, and just how he would play his deck and trying to stand out on his own, I actually think that Sanctuary Guard Dragon is the deck that takes the cake for me. But with all three deck profiles out there and showcased to you guys can go ahead and make your decisions down in the comment section below. Without further ado, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and take off. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you soon. Peace.